Hey, listen, it's good news, old people. If you're not so comfortable with not working anymore, it turns out the rest of the working world may be more interested in you than you think. Our friend Julie Bauke is President and Chief Career Strategist at the Bauke Group. Follow her on LinkedIn and know that the Bauke Bauke Group is trying to figure all this work stuff out for you, and we're happy to have her as a resource. Good morning, Julie.
Are we saying that it's finally our time?
Finally.
Finally time. It's good to keep active, keep moving. All right, so what do we know about this? That the job market is finally interested in the experience, the intelligence, and the interest in working of older folks?
Yeah, so there's so many factors. There's so many things here to unpack. First of all, from the individual side of the desk, there are, when a record number of people, let's just say boomers left the workforce at a very quick pace when the return to work orders started to come. And that really surprised organizations who expected boomers to, let's just say older workers, to fall in line and come back and do everything that was always done. But too many said, I don't think so. And so they took the opportunity to leave their current employer. So the thought was, okay, well, they're going to go sit on the porch and, watch the birds. Well, that was never going to happen because we have a situation where being in your 60s is not what it used to be, number one, and people absolutely want to stay relevant and active. But the bigger piece here, too, is that let's not ignore the reality that a lot of people, in their 60s and beyond cannot afford to retire. And so you've got the desire from let me stay relevant, but you also have I've got to work, but they don't, in a lot of cases, want to work in traditional organizations, in traditional ways where they're used to being kind of ignored and shoved aside. So when you look at it from Gen Z all the way up to the oldest boomers, there is absolutely a workplace shuffle going on in terms of expectations and what people want.
So, Julie, my sister, before she retired, was scared and she retired at age 70, and this was 4 years ago, and she was scared to leave the job, leave the workforce, or even cause any ruckus because there was never going to be another opportunity for her. So my question to you is, as the older generation of the boomers are like, okay, I want to continue working or go back to work after this big shuffle, are the opportunities the same as they are for Gen Xers and Zers? Meaning, will they, see the value in this experienced person, or say, you're too old, I can get somebody to do it, better job than you, less experience, but they'll do it for cheaper?
It depends. There's a few things here. So first of all, one of the things that you would fight against if you're a boomer trying to go back to work is just that plain old bias that says that we have to keep the beginning of the pipeline full of young people to come in and take over the job. So there's been so much focus and hand-wringing on the younger generations that older generations have been ignored. And another part of that bias is the feeling that, where are they going to go? They're not going anywhere. I talk to people all the time in their late 50s who say, well, yeah, my boss they're putting all their attention, energy, and resources on younger people because they're concerned that I'm good. I'm not going to go anywhere. And these people are actively looking to move on. So you do have to fight against that. But there are things you can control. And the biggest one is you have to stay relevant. And what I mean by that is, depending on what your profession is or your industry, are you up to date on all the new ideas, the new resources, the innovations, what companies are dealing with? Are you up to date with the technology, including AI, that is potentially associated with what you do? If you are a boomer who's really just trying to hang on and hide in the corner and tell people that's not the way they did it in my day and I'm not going to do that, no, you're not going to get hired. And so I think we all know boomers. I always said, I got taken to task one time by a listener for using the word boomer, but I like it, and I'm a boomer, so I feel like I'm not insulting anybody. Yeah. But the idea that we all know people, let's say, who are 65, who are really have kind of checked out and are not really interested in learning anything new, and we know people same age who are active and relevant, who are trying, And so you want to be that kind of boomer because that's where the opportunity is. Now, it may not be in an organization where you're on some corporate ladder type of situation, but most of us don't want that anyway.
Right.
But we can still contribute. However, a little bit like Gen Z in that we're demanding some flexibility. There are boomers that want to work, that are still relevant, have a ton to give, but they have grandparents. They still might be dealing with very elderly relatives. They might have some health challenges. They don't want to work in a traditional 9 to 5. And so they have that in common with Gen Z, but for different reasons.
All right, so two things there. In regards to the relevance, when do folks realize you had your turn, everybody gets a turn, it's not your turn anymore? Is it when, and I think you covered this in your answer, is it when you're not willing to adapt to what the new company needs are?
Yeah, and and I think a lot of times, I mean, you brought up a great point. We all saw Dianne Feinstein in a wheelchair, who absolutely should have resigned her position.
Right.
So we see in politics, we see and we see in politics, especially because it's so visible, people who absolutely should move on. But when you look at the human beings that are interested in a career in politics, their ego is so tightly wrapped with their career that it is impossible, almost impossible, for them to make that decision on their own, because it would be like giving up really who they are. And so that gets to the kind of people we elect. I'm for term limits myself, so
100%.
that fresh ideas can constantly come in. Pilots, look at pilots. They have a mandatory retirement age for
Cops.
a reason, right? Because and so there is a reason for it. And so organizations should not hesitate to hold their older workers to standards. But at the same time, understand if you've got some really, really valuable people who you do not want them to retire, and I'm seeing this, you need to create a situation for them to stay working for you, maybe just in a different way.
So what about older folks saying, and this is not an easy thing to do, but older folks saying, the little snot-nosed jerk over in the cubicle three away from me, I'm gonna offer to mentor that kid and teach that kid the business.
Exactly.
And therefore I have value. I'm showing value to the company.
Sure.
And maybe I'm on a 2-year plan where I get used to the idea that I'm going to leave after that.
Yeah, I love that. And that's the whole idea of like a multi-generational workforce. So we have, I don't know if we've talked on here, but I've talked several times about how younger workers, they didn't have the opportunity and to kind of for being at work through osmosis, learn how it works to be in a professional organization.
Right.
And so, because a lot of them, they did their stuff during COVID and they did internships remotely. And so they have a lot to learn, and employers are absolutely frustrated with that. So how can you set up a situation where those of us who've been around for a while can really help pull the younger people along? Because when we were young, we did stupid things too. I mean, it's not.
No, actually, no, I didn't. I mean, others did, but I'm
you.
pretty sure I did.
Sorry,
pretty sure I did.
Steve, right.
All right, so
you just keep doing them. It wasn't just when you were young. You keep doing them now. Is that it?
my entire career are bad choices. All right. So Julie Bauke, is there a resource for people who've gotten out of the game and want to get back in? Does Indeed or any of the major job sites, do they break it out in a manner? Are they seeing the need to do that?
I would do. There's a site called FlexJobs that is really good, because that's the gathering of all the organizations who've said, yes, we provide flexible work. So I'd look in a variety of places. First of all, you must be on LinkedIn. Your profile must be up to date, and it must be robust, because right there, if you're a boomer and you're not on LinkedIn and you're in a professional type job, and your LinkedIn profile looks like you did it because somebody told you had to, you are right there signaling you're out of touch.
Boy, that is such a great way to describe LinkedIn.
Yeah.
You could read through thousands of profiles from people going, I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm just filling in blanks.
Oh, my God. Yes.
And by the way, including me.
It's important to remember, because LinkedIn happened and people are like, okay, I'm not going to do it, but make sure that that's updated.
It's a great idea.
Or sign up for it.
See, Julie, I thought I heard in your explanation that you maybe do other shows, which I think is a total waste of time. So maybe update your profile that you can only be found here. That's all I'm saying.
I could only be found here, but yeah, you don't have me on often enough for that. If you had me on once a week, I'd do that.
Your appearances
If I
are
ever
always
had a gig with you. I'd do that.
your appearances are
inspiring.
always good. I think you may be
All of
replacing
your
me
court,
soon.
Cochran.
Yeah, I think it's
No.
going to be the
What?
Bauke show with
The
Andre
Bauke
and
Hour.
Jane.
That would be unfortunate.
No, stop it.
That'll be
Julie,
a great show, actually.
Julie Bauke, the Bauke Group, LinkedIn. Thank you, Julie.
Thanks, Julie.
Bye.